And hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I'm really excited to have one of my favorite guests back today. And when I know I say that with about a lot of my guests, but Olivia really is one of my favorite guests. I try to support her work on Substack and, you know, when she's in Misha's group, because I really believe in what she's doing. And she was the first person to break Project Oblivion. And for those of us that are targeted, you know, that realize what it's like to be targeted, you know, we know that Project Oblivion's a real thing. So for me, that was huge, you know, that she broke that. So I always try to back her work anytime I get a chance. And a little bit more about my guest. Olivia James is the author of the explosive autobiographical series, Gray Mouse, which includes Gray Mouse, Sex Space Mind Control, and its sequel, Gray Mouse Purgatory. Her work dives deep into the hidden world of sex trafficking networks, black ops programming, MILAB operations, and space-based mind control infrastructures. Through her writings and testimony, Olivia lays out the mechanisms of psychological fragmentation, memory compartmentalization, MILAB timelines, and interdimensional aspects of ritualized control. Olivia is also the first person to coin the term Project Oblivion, a covert coordinated operation designed to disrupt, destabilize, and outright destroy the disclosure community, particularly whistleblowers and experiencers who speak openly about MILAB, SSP, and ritual abuse. She argues Project Oblivion uses AI-driven psychological warfare, targeted interference, infiltration, and relationship disruption as tools to collapse truth movements from the inside. Her books remain some of the most raw, unfiltered, and important testimonies in modern targeted individual MILAB and cosmic trauma landscape. And I put a link to her Amazon page. And I'll have to add her Substack as well. But with all that said, I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Olivia, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
Hi, good. Thank you. Thanks for having me back again.
But before we get into what you're going to talk about today, what do you think about, I just thought about to ask you this now, because I know you talk about sex trafficking in your book. What do you think of all this Epstein stuff that's come out? I mean, I've been talking about it a lot. Like it's been, you know, and it really, I'll just tell you, it has me like fucking fired up, honestly. Like I'm disgusted, you know, but what's crazy is it's like all this stuff that we've been talking about for years that like we thought that might've been going on is like actually being proven now that it is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worse than we ever thought. You know what I mean? And once you dig into these Epstein files, you find out that it's absolutely worse than we ever thought. So I kind of just wanted to get your opinion on that.
I just thought it's been going on a lot longer with him than people realize. Because I remember when I was early 20s, probably like 21, I had to, because we used to do a lot of espionage. So they would have us go undercover, like at parties and things like that. And I remember being at a party and there was a few other girls that we were working and he was there and he was a lot younger then. So this, I want to say 30 years. And he was already a big name then somehow, because at this party there was connected people, the politicians and things, and he was there. And when he walked in and came in, everybody was kind of like on edge and like feeling really weird. So I don't know what kind of power he had, except that I knew that, nobody wanted to wait on him. They kind of forced me to, but he was just there at a party, just sitting there, like drinking and having food with everybody else. But I just remembered that it was way earlier than what we think. I think he'd been doing this for longer than we even know.
Well, do you think he's just like, do you think this is a part of a much larger, like huge sex trafficking network, and not just sex trafficking, but like, ritualistic abuse, Luciferianism, ritual killings, murderings, butcherings, cannibalism, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I think you know where I'm going with that.
Oh yeah, all of it, because I've seen some of it in the work that I was forced to do. I saw a lot of that. So to me, it wasn't out of the ordinary. I even wrote about it in my book, some of the memories I had, and doing sessions and seeing, remote viewing some of the things I had to do. Same things were brought up because of the government's ties to the occult that I witnessed myself. So.
And just your personal opinion, do you think it'll ever be brought down, or do you think it's being brought to the light, or do you think that they'll always stay hidden?
No, I believe in the truth movement, and I think it's coming, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so well, thanks again for coming back on today. And what were we going to get into today? I know you had a recent session with Misha.
Yeah, I did, and we kind of did just kind of like an experimental type session, and what I did what I did was I wanted to do something a little different. So we decided, because usually I consider myself a shadow worker, and the sessions I do are shadow sessions. So most of it is dark information, and I feel like it's necessary. That information's needed, but I wanted to go a little bit different. So we decided to let source come through me instead, and just only get the information from source energy, and to see what that energy said about everything. And sometimes I say he, because in my mind, I grew up in the church, so that's how I remember God. They always said he. I personally am not religious currently, but the experience of having source, being able to let source speak through me, was definitely real. So, and to me, it didn't strike of religion. It was something different. So when he came through, I mean, we just started asking him all different type of questions, like, especially about our movement. And he did say we're in rough shape, and what he talked about is like the trauma. And he says our movement is like almost like a traumatized child movement, where we give that very traumatized child energy in our connections and our interactions and things like that. That's what Source was saying, that he can see it, and it's very traumatized. We're all traumatized. And he said his message was, it's time to grow up. It's time for you to grow into your movement. This is, a movement for adults, and we have to move forward. It's almost like he's saying it's definitely, we have to move really quickly, and, work hard on healing that traumatized child within. And I totally understood what he was saying, that we're a child movement because of the energy of it, very angry, defensive, oppositional, a lot of infighting, things like that. I understood what he was saying. And he, in a way, I guess he was probably right, that we do need to focus on healing our own inner child in order to grow into our movement and grow up as a movement. We were trying to look at so many different things, and there was something really cool that I saw, that so I wanted to see, because our timeline, the one we're on right now, it's looking a little rough, so we kind of wanted to see, is there other timelines? Is there something else that maybe we could push ourselves to? And I saw, which Source showed me, is that there is 38 current timelines of 2026, and possibly moving towards more. And I wanted to see one of the more positive timelines. Is there something that is more positive out there for us? Is there something that we can do? And so I decided to travel to a positive timeline, and it was almost like an alternate Earth when I saw it. So when I went there, it's a place called Gilpin. It's an alternate Earth, and it's called Gilpin, Gilpin. And the place is just beautiful there. And when we scanned the percentages of it, and this, I feel like this timeline is heavy positive. It's almost like, as a overbalance, it's a 73% more positive than what we have now. And when I went there, it just looked amazing. It looked very technologically advanced in terms of like the architecture. What I was really interested in seeing is that when I went there, I went to a library, and the libraries are back to being busy. People were reading again in that timeline. They're back to where the libraries were popular. There was people everywhere in the library, and it looks like they had released some galactic history, and where people were so interested, there was kids everywhere. And it was almost like a living museum, this library. I could see like people pulling books, like it was just really amazing to see people get back to reading.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Something about Gilpin like resonated with me there. It was like something kind of, I don't know. I don't know. It's like I knew that from somewhere before. I don't know what you know what I mean? Maybe I'm from there or something. I don't know. Like, I mean, like that's like,
Yeah, it
like
was amazing.
I just had like a deja vu moment. And
It
I
definitely
can't,
looked amazing.
yeah.
And there was people everywhere, and we all looked different. We looked younger, we looked healthier, and I believe like the medical system, it was just a second, I think Oblivion is making me have an allergy attack right in the middle of the podcast. Give me one
I
second.
was gonna say, are you okay? You don't sound too, yeah.
Oh, that was a nice try. Trying to give me a full allergy attack right on air. And it's really weird because I'm just sitting alone in my bedroom.
Do you have to take an
So
EpiPen for that or something?
I used to. It's okay now, but it was a good try. It was a good Oblivion try.
Well,
It's
wait, you're
because of
just gather yourself for a minute. Get your breath and stuff. You know, make sure you're okay. I'll just read this comment. This is from Catherine Ann Wright. She says, "Love Olivia. Thank you for helping us all out and informing us. After my Jeep accident, traumatizing brain, I woke up and realized I was an Illuminati family, Vegas. So there's that. And yeah, just a lot of nice comments from people so far. You know, so yeah, people are really digging your information. But I think they're used to. They're comfortable with you. Like a lot of my audience knows you, you know. So yeah.
yeah.
Are you
So
okay now?
yeah, it was like almost like an allergy attack that they were trying to give me. It was really
Holy
interesting.
shit.
I know, you could tell by my voice. So, well, the information's out there now, so they can't stop it. Everybody knows about Gilpin. So when I saw that, like I was saying, everybody looked younger. I swear, we all looked 30 years younger. It was insane to see it. And it was because their medical system was more early herbal based. They had like healing centers rather than the established, kind of like medication protocols and things like that. We all looked a lot better. I mean, everybody looked healthier. People were happier. And I think Source told me that the theme of that timeline is freedom. And that's why people looked happier. The theme of that timeline was freedom. So we were kind of like just going back and forth and trying to find information about our current timeline. And it's just, Source said that it's a war game, that it's almost like he showed me like a chessboard with people playing chess. He said it's war games. And there's power plays, and literally that's what it is. People behind the scenes just playing these games for power. And we're getting caught in the middle of it, in the middle of the chaos, in the middle of the trauma and the strife and things like that. We're kind of getting caught in the middle of it. And I kind of got what he was saying. What I did see though too, we're trying to figure out if can we shift timelines? Can we, I don't know, bleed into the new timeline? And I saw that there was a machine that's called I think it was called Tachyon Transmission Accelerator. And it was something that's pushing, that's how they can push timelines to what they want. So it's almost like they've pushed the more positive timeline away, weakened the strength of that one to where we can't, kind of mend together with that one. That would be cool if we could like connect to that one somehow and get some of that energy through to our timeline. We definitely need it. So that was kind of some of the things I saw there. One thing that I did see that was a concern, because it's not 100% positive. There's still got to have to be some type of, learning curve and things in that alternate timeline. And in that particular timeline, I did see that there was AI, and it kind of had taken a big hold there. So people were definitely relying on AI there. And actually the AI in that timeline was called Redmond. And they had created a religion around it. So that's kind of where that timeline went kind of. I'm not quite sure how that's going to turn out. But it went more to the religious aspect of the AI. And they started making churches, with, around that religion for Redmond, who is their main AI that they follow in that alternate reality called Gilpin. So I thought that was really interesting when I saw it. So, they almost had churches for it. So the AI had become a religion in that timeline.
Wow, that's interesting. It's crazy, like how like like humans and even humans in like other societies, you'll see like they get so crazy about like God and stuff that they're willing to build a religion around something. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what it is. Like humanity will find a way to worship it. I think that's kind of what we did with like the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki thing here. Like we looked at them as gods, so we worship them. And we're and now we're seeing, like you said, these people from Gilpin. They're doing that with like an AI, and like it just shows.
And they're the positive timeline.
Yeah,
they're
crazy.
The 73% positive timeline.
Do you think they're dealing with Oblivion there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's got to still be. And Source even said that Source says that we can defeat Oblivion. He said it is extremely possible for us to defeat it. It's going to take a lot of work. and to keep doing what we're doing, that it's whether we see the effects of it. He said there is seeds planted. Whatever we're doing, we're planting seeds for, the whatever's happening. And when he saw it, he said, well, this is what I was told by source, that he can't intervene. He said, this is
Yeah.
our world. He said, this is your world. You made this. You made the choice for this. You all did together. And,
Yeah.
that's kind of very like an advanced kind of thinking, for some, it was very advanced to me, like, to have God say that he can't intervene for us because we're the ones that did this. We made this, and this is what we chose. He said, this was your choice. He said, I would never want to intervene because I've given you that freedom and that free will to make these choices. And you all have made this choice together to make the world what you have. And it's our turn. If we want to change it, we can. And he said that this timeline that we're on, yes, it is chaos. Yes, it is very chaotic, and there's a lot of war games. But he said we're on like the precipice of a huge planet transformation that they've been waiting for a long time. And he said that's what it is. It's, and it's all comes from him, that rebirth cycle, that destruction cycle. And he said he's everything, and so are we. And he said he does not want to be worshipped. There's no need for worship because he said we are experiencing him and he's experiencing us at the same time. So he's like, there's no need for worship if we're all the same. And he said, I really mean that. He said, there's never been any failures on earth. There's never been mistakes. He said, and he even told me, he said, do you think I make mistakes? And I was, no, I don't think that, he's saying, you think I would, make a mistake here, So it's really, it was really profound for me to hear that. Like, he really gave us this free will to create and to make this world what we want to see. And now we can do the same thing by unmaking it. If we didn't like the outcome that we have now, we can unmake everything that's kind of going on if we wanted to. And he said he was totally positive and totally sure that we could do that. And I feel like we all get kind of trapped in fear. And that's what he said. He said our current timeline is a timeline of fear. Everybody's afraid of everything, and it comes off in different ways: anger, rage, sadness, isolation, healing, hiding yourself away. There's all different types of ways that fear can be expressed in this world. And he said that that's what our timeline is. The theme of our timeline is fear. But he really said that there is nothing to fear. He said it's a gift he's given us to overcome, not to hang on to and, continue it. He said, it's time for to overcome that fear. That's what the gift is. I've given you this as for you, so you can overcome it and see how strong you are and see that you really did come for me and we're all together. You're the same as me. You're not different at all. So it was amazing to feel it. It was amazing to speak with them and talk about, the different aspects of that. There was he said so much about, just the nature of reality, and what he is just everything. There is nothing that's not him. And it really is profound for me to think of, you can think of the darkest, most, intense thing. And he said, it's from me still. And I just, it's so hard to, come to terms with that, when source says that everything comes from me. But if it didn't come from him, then where did it come from? If he's the all encompassing, end all be all. So
Exactly.
that timeline, Gilpin, it looks like, I wish we could get closer to that, because it really was amazing. And I saw myself there, like the version of myself that's in Gilpin. I look completely different. I look a lot younger, I just was at the library, it just, and you know what? Everyone looks happier. That was the biggest thing I saw, is happiness. In our current timeline is just so much anger, strife, rage, darkness, everything here and there. People were happy. Where did that happiness go?
Well, we're finding out that our reality is like we're in a society where well, not us, we're not doing this, but the controllers are protecting pedophiles, and the controllers are pedophiles. You know what I mean? And we're finding out that this reality is some sadistic, like, twisted fucking, I don't even know what, that like, that literally protects pedophiles. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
and if you look at like people like Isaac Cappy, for example, I've been really deep on this Epstein file shit, and it really fires me up. So going back to this, because I think it needs addressed. Like, if you look at like the story of Isaac Cappy, he was a conspiracy theorist just like you or me, but he went really deep on the child trafficking shit, and he was found dead. Just as an example. So I feel like when people really go after the child molesters, they get taken out too. And that's what I mean by we're living in a society that protects child molesters. So when you live in a society that takes away the innocence like that, and not just takes away innocence but corrupts innocence, and then acts deviantly against it, I think you're obviously going to have a lot of problems.
I think it's interesting that a lot of our nation is just kind of like waking up to violence against children. This has been going on so long. Like, I used to work in a women's shelter years ago, and you think there was, violence every day, all day, just in one city. It wasn't, it was never empty. It was full every day. So I guess it's interesting to see that people are just now waking up to the theme of violence against, children, women, everybody.
Yeah.
How, what, where have you guys been? It's been going on for so long,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to see that it's getting a lot more attention, because it needed to be, because it was very hard to, and it's like people wanted to push it away because they're so afraid to look at it. They don't want to see that really hard stuff. I got used to it, and I got a little bit desensitized to seeing constant violence and people, women shot in the face, children constantly abused, things like that at a women's shelter. But it's there. It's been there for a really long time, and it's just now coming to the forefront just from something like this as a catalyst. And and that's another thing Source said, that he giving us these themes like Project Oblivion, and that he says that's going to be a catalyst for us, for change, for huge change. The fact that there's disclosure coming out in big chunks and things, it's a huge catalyst for transformation. And he didn't want to be negative, and he said transformation, we're on the verge of it. So it was really huge. Like I said, this theme of violence has been going against children, and it's been going on forever. And it's been in, some of us have known about it.
Yeah, I think I've been directly affected by Oblivion in many ways. Like, I can just tell you this, like, I don't even announce when I'm in a new relationship anymore. Like, I just let people guess, because like, honestly, like, it seems like every time I meet a new woman and then everything's going great, I'll announce it, or I'll tell a lot of people, I'll be all excited about it. And then it's almost like once I say that, it like triggers something. And then it's always, I don't know if it's targeting or what, but they find a way to make it go downhill. And then obviously they do that to trigger me, because like, then I start thinking, is there something wrong with me? But me, I know that a lot of it's targeting. You know what I mean? Sometimes the women don't understand that, or, but like, it's just like, it's, but I was not, I don't know. Yeah. It's like, so I mean, like, but it's many ways that they do this. They do it with relationships. They do it with like, finances. They do it with technology. They do it with gang stalking. They do it with, it's on and on, and they find ways to like infiltrate our community.
It's almost like a study. They study, and it's an individualized experience, in my opinion. And they study to make sure what's the best route to control you. Because everybody's going to be different. Everybody's going to have their own control factors. What would control you? And they've already figured out what could control me. So they would have to do that for everyone. To figure out how to control you.
Yeah.
And if you're very much affected in a relationship, that's the way to go. But let me tell you, when I used to do espionage and I was doing beta work, that was one of the main jobs that I had, to infiltrate a man's life that they decided was a target, infiltrate his life, and if they said I needed to destroy his life emotionally, I would have had to do that. Or, to gather intelligence. That's just the truth of it. That's what they had some of us doing. And they use a lot of women for that because it works. And if it didn't work, why, they wouldn't use it. It does work.
So you're saying they're using some women as assets in relationships to like target?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I did it before.
I haven't thought my ex-girlfriend, the one that I was living with a couple of years, years ago was like some kind of like CIA agent or handler, but like I don't think she was in a knowing way. I think it was like all done unknowingly, to where they were
And
targeting
it's
her and affecting
possible,
her mind.
because
You know,
sometimes if all I need to do is be around someone to gather intelligence, I didn't have to do anything, because you have an alter that has a photographic memory. You're just recording information. You can get debriefed through hypnosis. It's super easy. And not every, targeted relationship, which I was told to do, was based on harm. A lot of it, there was one person in the UK that I had to infiltrate, and he was an author, and all I did was have to be in a relationship with him for a short time, and then just listen and to see what he was talking about, what he was up to, and then debrief the agency. That's it. So you don't even know, sometimes some people don't even know that's what people are doing, and it was really easy. And also, like, there's a lot of people that have some kind of, if somebody has like a nanny or an au pair, something like that, those are main assets too. And it's very easy. Sometimes you'll see in the news these, rich people get caught like having affairs with their nannies and things like that. Those are assets that we're told to go in there and infiltrate, a certain way. A lot of nannies, a lot of, au pairs, something like that too. Though that's what they do. And it's, if women didn't have that power in a relationship, they wouldn't use us. But they use that because they know that some men, not all, but some men, kind of have that weakness for women, and well, that would happen, and where that would be available to them to get information or to do some type of other harm. It doesn't always have to be a physical harm. Emotional harm is completely destructive. And have I had to do that before? Yeah. And you can completely distort somebody emotionally, where it take a long time for them to move on. And that's part of programming. That's part of MK Ultra. That's part of the Marnik program, being forced to learn how to do that kind of thing, to harm other people emotionally. That's definitely something that we do, because we all learned how to do that if we were in beta work.
yeah, that's so interesting. That's so interesting.
Yeah,
Right?
it just is. And like I said, I did one guy, he was, and there was another guy, he was in, I remember him from his, but it wasn't even him that was the target. It was his father. But I still had to be in a short relationship with him and hurt him. They wanted me to hurt him emotionally for some reason. I don't know if that puts pressure on the relationship between him and his father. I don't know how. They have so many expert planning things that they can do. They're very well versed in, the mind and human behavior, sociology. It's all part of that. Actually, sociology is weaponized in a lot of these, experiences. It's very much weaponized.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to go over with you. I got this today. So someone, I guess, was worried about me, and they sent me a text today. They said, "Hey, a friend." They said, "Okay." So they said, "Please get this message to Rob, typical skeptic. He needs sunlight and he needs to ground." But I ground, and I mean, it's the middle of winter here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You're not going to get much sunlight. You know what I mean? I've
Yeah.
thought about getting something infrared, but then she sent me this video. It's called The War on Sunlight. It says the war on sunlight is real. And it was a guy, his name was Dr. Jack Cruz, and it was on the Align podcast. Like, I don't know where some of these big podcasts come. Like, it's funny. Like, somehow, like, I'd love to talk to you about that too. It's like some of these podcasts like get huge overnight. And it's like, these have to be like asset podcasts too. I like the information they were putting out here, but like, honestly, like, like I just don't understand. I don't get that. You know what I mean? But like,
I
but do you
feel
think
like they choose. I feel like they choose, just like they choose assets to do certain jobs. Why wouldn't they choose somebody to do a particular job if they wanted a particular set of information out? Wouldn't it be easy that for them to create an influencer and put them online? I mean, all of it's possible. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's all possible. And I've seen things happen, just being an asset myself formerly, the things that we had to do.
Yeah, I agree. This is amazing information though. But
And
so
the thing about, I think it's interesting that they're pushing our timeline, so we're with that tachyon accelerator to weaken the positive timeline, to keep us in this, because what I said is Source said that the people in power want war. And, not everybody wants that. Not everybody wants it, but they want it. They feel like they can definitely control, from the chaos and things like that, which we see all the time. That's how they control us.
yeah. Wow. Let me see what other questions I had for you. So let me see. I have a bunch here. Is there anything like new updates on Project Oblivion from like the experiencer's point of view, like, or anything like that we should be like looking out for, or like, you know?
Yeah, what source told me, and I mean, this might not be what people want to hear, but he said the way to battle this is to show love every day, accept love into your life every day. You know, it's we've lost that. We let that go. You know, we don't even do that in it. Yeah, that's what he said. It's like he can see that so far, really we need to bring love back onto the planet. We let it go for so long. It's time to almost like a return to love. And and I understand it's different from the usual information that I provide, but that's what I was told, and it was amazing to hear it, that one of our biggest issues, that we need to return to love and bring love back, back home. And he said, you in doing that, you will find yourself, returning to me, he said, as source, when you choose to bring love into your life. And he said the biggest messages he can give is to choose love every day.
Well, with that said, do you think on the opposite side they're kind of targeting love in a way? Like I know we just kind of talked about relationships, but do you think they're targeting friendships? They're targeting all that stuff to kind of dampen the
Oh
love
yeah.
effect? Like,
I experience it in my own targeting, is a relationship targeting with just friends, at work and things like that. And how to, me, I react in anger a lot, and I'm learning how to, try to be more unconditional, you know and not, put on that defense mode all the time, because like he said, we're in our movement is like a traumatized child. That's the feeling of it. It's time for us to grow up and move into the movement, grow up into the movement ourselves. And this is for us. We've decided we want to do this, and we need to take control of it, in an adult professional way, and move forward and provide information to the world as much as we can, so we can make the changes that we talk about. We talk about the changes and what we want to see in the world. And yet sometimes some of us are doing, we're doing like the opposite. And he said, that's what he told me, to choose love every day. It could be a huge change for us if we do that.
yeah, yeah. And guys, if you have any questions for Olivia, you can put them in the chat now. I'll pick the best ones. And yeah. And have you gotten any more like screen memories or any memories besides Gilpin, like since the Gray Mouse series?
Oh, I get stuff all the time. It's really interesting. And I mean, some stuff is paranormal. I don't always want to get into the paranormal stuff, because that's like more of like a, a specialized topic, but in terms of Project Oblivion, it's just, I don't it's still here, and we haven't definitely pushed it away. I feel like he's saying that our movement is in a weak stage, and we need to get a handle on it. We
Yeah.
definitely
Well,
do.
one thing I wanted to ask you about, and I think we'll circle back to the Project Oblivion, but you mentioned the paranormal. So like I do want to touch on you the paranormal, because that's like
Yeah.
really interesting to me. Like, because I know this because I've told you about it. Like I had like an entity attachment for like 2 years. And for me, it was like the hardest thing to get rid of. Like I used like every energy healer at my disposal. You know what I mean? Like, and I have a lot of them, you know what I mean? Or well, I have a lot of friends that are energy healers and stuff. And it's not that I would recommend all the people that I used. I just think like I had a nasty one. And, I was noticing that the entities were like entering through the crown. They would enter through the back of the neck. They enter at the bottoms of your feet.
Are you
It's
watching a lot of horror movies?
no, not at all. Not at all. Honestly, not at all. Like, like I just had some kind of weird, like astral parasite or multiple astral.
I've had an astral parasite before. It was in my throat, and it's just it was actually pretty. It looked really silly, because I thought it was going to be some really creepy thing, and it almost just looked like a little bug, like a little astral bug in there, and it was afraid it was just in my vocal cords, kind of
How
thing.
did you end up getting rid of yours? Like, what did you do?
There is, because I used to be one. I know the way is, you just say, "I get away from me," and you have to mean it though. Sometimes, I mean, I know sometimes we mean it, and then we kind of like leave these little areas open. I'm not saying you do, but I'm just saying, like, some people, if you feel like if you're afraid, but then you think about it all the time, and that fear kind of draws them to you. They think they can creep up on you and push against you when you have that fear. But really, there is nothing to fear. These things are not to fear. You can push them away. They can't take over you unless you let it. They can't.
Yeah.
They have to have that permission. They have to have that consent to even enter your body. From my experience, I don't want to,
Do you think
dictate other
consent can
people's
be made
beliefs.
in other ways? Like, what if someone casts
Yes.
like black magic against you or something like that? You know what I
I believe
mean?
in black magic, and I believe we give consent. Am I afraid that look at me. I can let entities speak through me, and I'm not afraid. You know,
Yeah.
you can do that too. You can push it away. And there was an entity named Maru. And when I was having a very scary session before, and there was a group of what I consider witches. They were kind of like black magic, and they had trained me under MK Ultra. And they came to me in the session I was doing with Misha, and they drew a line in the sand. And they said they asked me, "Do you want to go to war with us? Is this what you want?" Because they were upset that I don't follow their path. I'm not like them. I'm not interested in black magic. I'm not interested in that kind of thing. And they said, "Do you want?" They didn't understand it. They said, "How can I? Pretty much, how can I let that go?" And I do know that when I saw their books that they were holding, they're following an ancient religion like Sumerian from Sumeria. There's an old religion. So some of these practices go way back, all the way to Samaria in Babylonia, things like that.
Wow, that's
So that's what
interesting.
I saw from them, and they were not happy that I did not follow the path, because when I was, occult trained, they tied me to somebody called Isis. And it isn't like I talked before on some of these shows, that it isn't the angel with the wings that some people think of as Isis. This was the dark version of her. I was, tied to Isis, and how can you let that go? They don't understand that, I'm not like them though. I'm not what I considered them like. I remember saying in the session, I'm not a black heart like them. I don't want that kind of thing in my life. And so that was something that was really interesting in me. But I do know Maru, that entity Maru, when I looked up in the sky, I was feeling like I couldn't fight these, witches. I didn't know what to do. They knew more than me, or so I thought. And so I saw this entity, and he was almost looked like he was swimming in the clouds. And these are like titans. This was like a titan. His name was Meru, Meru. And he was almost swimming up there. And I remember he told me, he's like, call the winds and you tell them. And this is a real statement that you can use against darkness. You said, no darkness may enter here. This is a safe space for all. You say that out loud. If you ever get nervous or you think something's trying to enter you, you say that. And it's almost like when I was an entity, if somebody said that to me, it'd be like somebody throwing a fireball at my chest. It's real energy, and it's real, a denial of that. You tell them you're very strong. You just say that. Get away. You're not welcome here. Do not enter my space. No darkness may enter here. This is a safe space for everyone, and they have to move. And I saw it with my own eyes. There was almost like a wind started to pick up, and it was pushing them back and back, farther back, where they couldn't move forward towards my space. And this, whether or not this happened in the astral is real. To me, the astral is real. It's sentient. It's being created. It's being co-created by all of us, for what I was told in a session. That astral realm is real and it's alive. So I know whatever I saw, it was real for me and it was real for them. So they definitely retreated that day, and I tried to stay vigilant in case they returned, that they're still not happy. And part of it is because some of us have these knowledge that they gave us, secrets, within us, that they don't want us to give to anybody else, because this is supposed to be like secret information. And a lot of us are telling people what we know, especially just to tell somebody a secret, like a phrase where you can push these things back, is just saying that one thing. And I saw it work. And anytime, I'm a normal human. So, there's a couple times I might watch a horror movie and then try to go in my basement and do laundry. And of course I have to use the phrase, because I get nervous too. I'm a normal human. If I'm not in trance, I'm not as strong as I usually am. So under trance is definitely where I feel the most strong, but you can push that away quite easily.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then, would you say, back to Oblivion and stuff? Would you say there are technologies that kind of fragment the consciousness remotely, or are they doing stuff like that where they're taking people's consciousness remotely and kind of using it for black ops stuff? Would you say still?
That's something I need to look into. because I don't know if they can like literally take my consciousness or not. I had somebody, this was years back. I had like a psychic one time told me that there's a part of me that's trapped in the seventh dimension in some type of weird container. And I have never gone and looked for that piece. That's something I definitely want to do in the future in a session, is to, kind of save myself wherever I am. I'm trapped somewhere. Can you imagine there's a part of you that's stuck somewhere and you can't get to it? Like, what is that part? Is that something that's, stronger? Is that something that has information? Is that a part that, the world needs? I don't know. I definitely need to go and find that piece, because who knows who put me there? How did I get there? Is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, how did I get there? And why is that piece of me trapped? Is that an important piece of me, that I need, that's stuck in there,
You know
And
what they say? They say you can do soul retrieval. They say
yeah,
soul
it's
retrieval.
something like that. I think it might be something like that. There's a piece of me there. And this person that told me this, she said it's because they had to trap you there, because if they didn't, then I would have additional abilities to do with energy manipulation and something to do technologically something. And, I didn't know what it was. So they think that, part of you can be trapped in another place. So you don't, bring that ability to the world to help the world in a way.
Yeah, this question is from Erin on YouTube. She says with the astral bug in your throat, was that any way related to your throat chakra being blocked?
Yes.
Do you think it was trying to
Yes.
do that?
Yes, it was stopping me for, even talking. Like, I go through these stages where, I could talk, I can give a lot of information, but there's sometimes where I just feel like I can't even barely speak it or even talk about it.
I'm the
They try
same
to
way.
stop it.
I swear to God, I swear I get like that too. I swear to God, that's so crazy you said that. Like I've been feeling like that lately. Like sometimes I'll just be like it's like they blank me or something. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
know what that is.
It's like a heavy dissociation, just almost like and one time I remember in my early days of awakening to the black ops and all that, I remember that they had tried to control my throat and my speech I knew in my mind what I was going to say, but when it came out of my mouth, it was foul language. It was like I was trying to say something completely normal, like, "Can you pass me that glass?" And instead it came out as completely disgusting, foul language. And
Like Tourette.
something like that. And in my mind, I was like, people are going to think I'm possessed if, whatever is out there doing this to me, making it seem like, it mixed up the words in my mouth and and that, so I thought that was an interesting tie-in that, the government, this parasite, everything was like trying to stop me from speaking about certain things. I couldn't even, and it made me afraid. Like, what if am at work and I say the wrong thing, of like, something pushes me to say something inappropriate or something, that could be it. Like I could get fired, and it wouldn't be something that I wanted. It's just, and I remembered that day. I still remember it and I just clasped my hands over my mouth when I said it. Like I was just totally like in shock that came out of my mouth that way.
Yeah, this is an interesting question from Element Gem Studio. He says, "Have you ever done ayahuasca?" Or I'll say, are you opposed to it, or do you like it, or are you neutral?
I've never done it. I'm not opposed to it, but in my opinion, I feel like I could do the same thing under a deep trance. I do the same thing because I can just,
you don't need the drugs. Yeah.
I can travel. I can astral travel, bilocate, remote view, and do medium trance channeling, that kind of thing. So it's kind of similar. I don't even know what would happen if I did something like that. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
This was an interesting comment from Nikki Jacobs on Facebook. She says the ETs have a way to subdivide out forms of extreme higher consciousness as humans have. She says, I was told by the ETs that SSP global bug governments can do this too. Mind bending.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely there's some mind bending going on. There's definitely mind bending. It's isn't it so interesting that all these things are happening? But I do want you to focus on trying to make sure if you're feeling off, like with, you think you have an astral parasite or something. That was probably one of the easiest things to detach for me. I went under a session and I just looked at it and it looked very pitiful. It just looked like a little terrified little bug in my throat, and I just got it out. I just removed it and it was gone, and it never affected me again. And I did that more than once with an attachment. And I had an attachment that was really stuck around the liver and those organs there. And when I looked at it myself, like I did a body scan, and I saw it, and I could see like eyes and teeth, like chunked in there wrapped around my organs. And this thing was it almost looked terrified. It was like an ancient being. And from what I remember, it said it had been with me for a long time. I don't know if I allowed it to come in, or I don't know, because I must have been younger then when I did it. And I definitely didn't know the things that I know now. So it had been there a long time. And that was one of my first tasks. My very first session, we removed it. And, the person that I was with was a little bit experienced at that time, but we ended up removing, and it wasn't really that hard. We definitely had a really long conversation with the thing, and it was afraid to leave. That's what I saw. It was afraid that it didn't have anywhere to go. It said that it had fallen too hard, and God didn't want it around anymore, and didn't know where to go, what to do, how to be anything. It forgot its own name, that it was so ancient. It didn't even know who it was anymore. It was like terrified. So it had gotten stuck there because of its own fear. And I was able to release it from myself. I didn't need anybody else to do it. It was just came from me and my own, strength, and said, you're going to have to, move on pretty much. It's time to move on. It wasn't, I didn't take it as a battle. I didn't battle it. I didn't need an exorcism, anything. I just said, it's time for you. You've been here a long time. You're almost acting as a parasite. It's time to move on to something else. You can be reborn or do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was awesome. Anything else you wanted to cover before we finish up, or?
I'm working on my third book, and all the new information I have about Gilpin, I'm going to be putting in there in a very detailed way. So it should be all in my third book. I'm still working on it. It's getting close. I'm getting closer all the time to being finished with that. So I'm really excited for that third one to come out.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, Olivia. And do you want to tell people where they can follow you and stuff like that?
Yeah, still on Facebook, still on Substack. I write articles all the time on Substack, and I'll post captions and things like that on Facebook in case somebody's not a reader and they just want to catch the captions. I do that a lot too. I haven't worked on TikTok that much because I got banned before, and then I got banned on Twitter for a while, so I haven't really posted on those places, but still on Facebook, still on Substack, and I still have my YouTube channel up with all the videos I made previously from my books and stuff.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for tuning in today. And I'll be live again tonight, guys. I'm not feeling too good today, but I will make the link for tonight, and we will be live at some point. So I'll see you guys tonight, and thank you everybody for tuning in. 9 p.m. Eastern, I'll be live. So yeah, and I'll see you guys then. And thanks, Olivia, and thanks everyone. Good night.